Ashe, Ashe, and grand rising to you once again, my beautiful people. Yes, you, my highly enriched melanin people, you, the Earth's original and organic humans, aka my fellow Africans. It is I, the Mystic Philosopher, and yes, it is evident that I'm still here with you on this side of reality. And welcome back to the Mystic Piece talking again, aka under 15 minutes with I, the Mystic Philosopher, and this is episode 34. Now, in today's episode, I will attempt at fully getting back to my main topic of discussion, and one that started off all of these talks in the first place. Of course, it is stress on the mind, or more correctly, the thing that we humans call stress on that thing that we humans also called mind. So in order for me to properly pick up from where I left off, making some very important and thought-provoking points and answering some very important and thought-provoking questions in episode 29, please let me again remind you of some of the main points that I think that you all should know and understand by now. Number one, that we are all animals. And the reason why I say that we are all animals, I have already explained, I've already thoughtfully or thoroughly explained that to you. Number two, the main thing and possibly the only thing that truly separates us from the rest of the animal hierarchy, aka the animal domain, is our brain power, aka our intellect or our intelligence. Number three, if or when our brain power, aka our intellect and our intelligence, if or when it becomes dormant or inactive or deactivated, we will by default descend to the level of any other animal or to the level of all of the animals within the animal hierarchy that we sometimes so boastfully and sometimes so contemptuously look down on as them being inferior to us, and as a consequence of them being intellectless. Number four, some of us can get really offended and sometimes even extremely violent and aggressive if or when we are called an animal, or if or when we are labeled as animals, aka as livestock. And some don't even know, and nor can they understand that by their violence and aggression, they have literally become and are literally behaving like the animal that they are being called, the animals that they are being called and being compared to, simply because of their dormant, inactive, or deactivated brain power, aka their deactivated intellect or intelligence. And number five, and I use a dog, as you remember, I use a dog as an example of one of the animals that we can become like. We can become like it, or that we can be compared to it if or when our brain power, our intellect has become dormant or has become inactive or deactivated. And number six, I also told you that by now you would have and that you should have known that it is not the abundance, and now listen carefully now, not the abundance of the melanin in our skin or the abundance of the melanin that is in our physical bodies that, or the lack of the extreme lack thereof, that makes us as individuals or collectively as group or groups, is not that which makes us superior, or if you prefer, that makes us higher in rank within the animal domain or within the animal kingdom. But I told you that it is our activated brain power and our ability to think and to use our activated brain power wisely, to use our intelligence wisely and with integrity. Simply put, if we are not thinking, then we are no different from the rest of dumb animals that does not think or that cannot think. If or when we are not thinking, then we are simply livestock, meaning we are someone else's farm animals. And that someone aka our farmer will do all our thinking for us. If we are not thinking, then we are the sheep of someone's pasture. And that someone is our shepherd. And that someone, also known as our shepherd, is the one that is doing the thinking for us. If we are not thinking, we are someone's slave or slaves. We are someone's asset and property. I can have a lot more to say on that. So my people, please, if at all you are not really and truly brain dead, and as a result, you still have the ability to hear and the ability to comprehend what I have just said, then for intellect's sake, please stop telling yourself and the world that just because of your highly melanated skin or skin tone or your highly melanated skin complexion, you are gods and goddess, that you are kings and queens and princes and princesses, and that you are superior to all else. If or when the evidence shows, and if or when the evidence is showing that you are not thinking, because the fact is that to the thinking man or to the thinking woman, aka the Homo sapiens, you are nothing but a fool and a dumb animal. To the Homo sapiens, you are nothing more than an idiot if you are not thinking. So don't go boast about all the melanin we have in our skin. If it can be proven that you are not thinking, and we're going to be talking more about that. And on the point of using our brain power wisely and with integrity, I also promise that I will have much, much, much more to say on that in near future talks. Number 7. So almost none of us humans like to be called an animal or to be compared to an animal, let alone want to call an animal or to be called an animal or to be compared to an animal. Even those among us, the people that are functioning from the paradigm of want, which I talked about before, they will want almost everything that they can or that they may think of or believe in. But they don't want to be called an animal or to be compared to an animal, any animal for that matter. And why? It is because inherently and instinctively or intuitively we know or they believe or we believe that because of our think ability, we are superior to them, to the animals. Now, as I've mentioned earlier, that from my perspective, no sensible man likes to be called a dog. And why? It is because inherently and instinctively or intuitively, he knows. And he knows of a fact that in order for him to be truly likened to a dog and to be called a dog, he would have to have fallen from the status of being a human, aka a thinking man, to be called a dog. And as a consequence, he has now descended to the level of a thinkingless animal, or even to the level of a non-thinking animal, whose behavior he naturally abhor. Under natural circumstances, he would abhor such behavior. And the same is true for almost, if not all, sensible women. No sensible woman like to be called a bitch. Or no sensible woman wants to be called or to be likened to a bitch, which by meaning and definition is also a dog, or more correctly, a female dog. And why? It is because inherently and instinctively or intuitively she knows that in order for her to be truly likened to a bitch or to be truly called a bitch, she would have to have fallen from the status of being a human, aka a thinking human or a you woman. And as a consequence, she has now descended to the level of a thinkingless animal, or even to the level of a non-thinking animal whose behavior she naturally abhors. And the same is true of a monkey, a baboon, a snake, you name them, because it is by their fruits. No human, no sensible person want to be calling any of these animals, because it is by their fruits, their behavior, aka the inherent characteristics. That is how we know animals and all those who become like them and all those who are likened to them. Now, if we all can agree that all that I have said so far is true, then the 8 questions that I have already asked in episode 29. And that I, the Mystic Philosopher, would like to again ask and answer them here and now are as follows. Are sheep animals? And the answer is yes. Obviously yes. Question number two. If the answer is yes, meaning sheep are animal, my next question is this. What are the characteristics of a sheep? Or what are the characteristics of sheep? Now, the answer is characteristically and instinctively, sheep are docile animals. And what is the meaning and definition of the word docile? Well, according to one online English dictionary, the word docile by meaning and definition is, and I quote, a docile animal is a docile animal is easy to handle. If you behave well and do what people tell you to do, you are a docile person. Docile might be a word of praise, but it can also be a criticism of someone for being obviously overly submissive. Some symptoms are amenable and compliant. Definitions of docile, unquote. From the Mystic Philosopher's perspective, 1, a thinking person or a thinking human is not a sheep, or nor would he or she wants or will to be called a sheep, or to be labeled a sheep, to behave like a sheep, or intentionally allow others to call him or her a sheep. Number 2, quite unlike an intellectless animal, aka a sheep, a thinking person or a thinking human is not easy to handle. Number 3, quite unlike an intellectless animal, aka a sheep, a thinking person or a thinking human does not necessarily behave well and do whatever other people tell them to do or what other people want them to do. They are not willfully submissive and compliant, etc. We're going to be talking more about that in the future. Now I'm trying to waste the time. Number 3, question number 3, if we will agree that no sensible human, aka intelligent human, Homo sapiens, no thinking human, likes to be called an animal, or nor do they want to be called an animal, any animal for that matter, then why are so many people so proudly calling themselves animal? Why so many of you, my people, calling themselves sheep? And question number 4, why are so many people wanting and begging to be called sheep? Why are so many of you, my people, wanting to be called sheep? Number 5, why do people allow others to call them sheep? Why are you allowing other people to call you sheep? Number 6, why are most people behaving like sheep? Number 7, why do these people, like others, herding them and treating them like sheep? And the answer, from my perspective, the truth to be told, to the sheep, aka the thinking less person, and to whom else this may concern, they will not and cannot understand, let alone overstand this my response that I'm about to give. In fact, some if not all of them will find this my response to question number 3 to number 7 very upsetting, very insulting, and quite possible offensive. But as Bob Marley once said in one of his songs, the truth is an offense but not a sin. And the truth here is this. It's because they are not using their brain power, they are not using their intellect to think. If you call yourself a sheep, you are not using the intelligence of your brain to think. It is simply because they are not thinking. Consequently, they have descended to the level of the thinkingless animals, aka the intellectless animals, a docile animal, a docile creature, aka a sheep. Some of these thinkingless people honestly believe to themselves that it is a compliment when someone calls them sheep. And the same is true when they call themselves black, and when others, especially their enemies, call them black and sheep. But more on that at another time. Number 8, and are any of you or are all of you, my listeners and watchers, are you someone's sheep? And are you proud to be a sheep? And are you proud to be called a sheep? Please think. I'm begging you, please think before you answer. And are you sure? It was and it still is my intention. Oh wow, get over time. It was and still my intention, as promised, to continue sharing my perspectives on the word want, the word sheep, and the word shepherd, and especially as it pertains to the first verse of the 23rd Psalm, which said very clearly, and I quote, "The Lord is my shepherd, and I shall not want." Again, thus far today, I honestly think that I have, or at the very least, I honestly think that I may have given some of you, if not all of you, a lot more to think about, especially as it relates to the words shepherd, sheep, intellect, and animals, and their related questions, etc. And so, in the interest of time, I think I must and I should just pause here for today and ask that you please join me if or when next I'm talking again in episode 35, where and when I will be talking more about sheep and the disease called want, as I continue to share my perspectives on the quote from the Adamic Race History and Holy Book, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," which I'm only using as a reference just to make my points. So please stay tuned. I shall not want, you shall not want, and nor should you be found, or nor should we be found wanting. In the meantime and between time, please let me remind you, remember my people, that yesterday is history, too is dead and gone, no more to come back. Tomorrow is a mystery, it too may never come, but today is a gift, which is why we called it the present day. And so I am hereby imploring you, I hereby implore you to live for today. By live I mean to claim your natural birthright, and just in case you don't know what your natural birthright is, or you may have forgotten, it is your happiness. So claim your happiness and full joy today and hope for tomorrow. For tomorrow again may never come for you or for me or for I. And again, thanks for your time. Thanks for listening. I am the Mystic Philosopher. Ashe, 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 I say.